Aloha guys, Joe Tunney visiting my good friends here at BMW of Hawaii here in the beautiful city of Kona on the big island of Hawaii, and we're taking a look at a car that's very near and dear to my heart, the 2019 BMW i8 Roadster, one of the most exciting cars that you're ever going to have the opportunity to drive in your entire life, and certainly one of the most different cars that you're ever going to be able to take a look at. Now, this is a brand new car, just showed up on the showroom floor here at BMW of Hawaii, and we're going to tell you a little bit about some of the dynamics of it. Now, first off, this car actually has not just one, but two motors on it. It has an electric motor in the front, and then it has a gas motor in the back, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that. But come on around, let's take a look. Now, the i8 has what are called dihedral doors. So they're a little bit different than doors you've seen before. Most of the time, when doors open like this, they would call that gull-wing doors. Gull-wing doors extend out and curve down. In the old Lamborghinis, you had what are called scissor doors, and scissor doors go straight up. Dihedral doors in aeronautics just means a fixed wing that's pointed up. The opposite of that would be anhedral. Now, this car has a fabulous battery midships, and so the battery itself puts out, at least formerly, it put out 7.1 kilowatt hours of power. And so 7.1 kilowatts is a lot. 1 kilowatt is 3.6 megajoules, and so 7.1 is great. But even greater for 2019 is it's all the way up to 11.6 kilowatt hours. So the electric motor in the front is up to 141 horsepower to go with 184 pound-feet of torque. Let's take a look in back. Now, the engine on this is from BMW's B series lineup. So it's called the B38. There are three different B engines, the B38, the B48, the B58. They're done in half-liter increments. And so just imagine a one-cylinder engine with a half-liter, like Lego blocks, that you can put together. So put three of them together, and that's the B38 engine, which you find in the Mini Cooper. You also find it here in a much more high-performance application with electronic wastegates and stronger main bearings and different turbo and such. And so the power is vastly different, almost 230 horsepower with over 230 pound-feet of torque. So enormous power between the two motors. The two motors actually run on two different transmissions. And so the electric motor has its own dedicated 2-speed automatic transmission, where the gas motor has a 6-speed automatic transmission. Taking a look in back, well, this is a high-performance exotic, but if we look underneath, we'll realize the tires themselves aren't all that big and wide. Also, it has a unique exhaust, unlike anything you've ever seen in a car before. The exhaust actually only operates on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, it has a speaker and an amplifier that amplifies kind of manufactured exhaust sound. So I don't know how excited I am about that particular aspect of the car, but it does sound quite nice. Now, the interesting thing about this car is that the tires are actually quite slim for a car with such exotic characteristics, and it is all-wheel drive. An interesting side note, whenever you have a car that's perfectly balanced like this is, 49% of the weight in the front, 51% of the weight in the rear, to go with all-wheel drive and skinny tires, it actually does quite well in the snow, which is something you'd never imagine in a high-performance exotic car like this, but that is how it is. The problem with having those skinny tires is the i8 historically understeers, and that's a real problem. Understeer is when you want to make a sharp left turn, but the car wants to keep going in a straight line. Well, that's not good. So for 2019, what BMW did is they really tightened down the rear suspension of the car, and so they call that an anti-roll bar, and so they tightened that down, which normally would make the ride on the car a little bit bouncy. Not the case at all. The second thing that they did in the front suspension is the front bushing, the actual upward motion of the front bushing, is much more relaxed. Well, that might give the car a bouncy drive, but in this case it does not. The benefit of those two, if you can imagine taking a high-speed turn at what's called the apex, and that's the critical moment where you go from going into the turn to going out of the turn, and the car is sitting down on that right side, so to speak, if you're turning left with all of its got, well, that's the worst possible traction. By having the firmer rear suspension in the back, it keeps it flat in the back, and then as soon as you turn that apex, by relaxing that suspension setting at that critical moment, it turns the way you want it to turn. And so without going to bigger tires, which is kind of what everybody does when the car understeers, this car uses actual engineering prowess to achieve the desired result, and now the handling is fantastic. The benefit of that is that the gas mileage on this car is wonderful. And so you'll see, 26 miles per gallon, you'll see 76 miles per gallon E. I don't care about all that. I got a full tank of gas and I want to go somewhere. How far can I go? This is going to go about 380 miles, give or take, depending on how you drive. Well, the gas tank on this is 11.1 gallons, so that's about 35 miles per gallon. Seriously, in an exotic like this, it's absolutely fantastic. Let's jump back inside and take a look. Now, the convertible top opens and closes in just 16 seconds. And it'll do it at speeds up to 31 miles an hour. Don't be the guy who opens the convertible top when you're going 31 miles an hour. Come to a complete stop and open the convertible top there. It's cool that it can do it. Don't open and close your top while you're driving the car. That's absolutely crazy. Super neat thing about this, though, is that the hardware for the convertible top is actually 3D printed. Now, I don't know if 3D printed makes it any stronger, but it sure sounds cool. And on top of that, that same 3D printing is used to reinforce the rear of the car, and so they call that the rear bulkhead. It's reinforced with 3D printed aluminum as well. And then it has north-south reinforcements on either side of the structure of the car, which makes this car incredibly strong. In fact, they liked it so much that BMW carried it over to the coupe as well, and so the coupe is much stronger for 2019 as well. This car only weighs 3,513 pounds, and so it's 132 pounds heavier than the coupe, so performance is very, very similar to the coupe. It goes 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds and goes 70 to 0 in 165 feet, which is really good. It's not Ferrari good, but it is really good. To give you a comparison, a Mustang GT goes 70 to 0 in 164 feet. So it is high performance braking, but not relentless performance braking. It's a high performance car, but it's not a relentless performance car. It'll go completely electric for up to 18 miles. Well, that's really nice. The NSX, for example, from Acura, will go fully electric for 2 miles. And so you have a big advantage if your commute is a brief commute. The other thing is this will charge on a 7.2 kilowatt charger in about 3 hours. And so very, very reasonable time as far as that goes as well. But forget all that. This is one of the most stupendously beautiful cars in the entire world. It's a very practical car to drive. It goes in quite a great distance between fuel stops. It looks traffic stopping sexy. Wherever you go, you're going to turn every single head of every single person who drives past you. It's an absolute fantasy come true type of car. They're not giving them away. They are very, very expensive, but something tells me, if you've followed BMW's history at all, anything rare is extremely valuable down the road. I have a feeling this could be one of the high watermark cars in the entire history of BMW. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My name is Joe Tunney. You can reach me anytime at joeloveshawaii@gmail.com.